So, if you have been trying to propagate African violet leaves for any length of time, I've just started propagating leaves back in, I think it was October of 2021. So, about a good 6 months I've been propagating leaves. I literally have, I would say, like maybe possibly hundreds of leaves going on. And once you start getting into the habit of propagating, and you find it a lot of fun, but every once in a while, you'll have some problems with certain leaves. So, here's an example. This is a leaf, and you can see that it's clearly rotting, and you see, and even the stem has completely rotted away. I mean, it's right there. So the stem has completely rotted away in the soil, and that stem is pretty much done for. And then also this leaf is also swiftly rotting. So it started rotting from the stem, and now it's reached the leaf, and it's in pretty bad shape. So, and then we also have another one. One of the things that I do with all of my leaves is that maybe once a week or so, I'll take a look at all of my leaves, make sure they have enough water, check for plantlets, and then check on the progress. And then I also check for signs of rotting. So here is another example here. We've got signs of damage on this particular leaf, and I'm gently pulling it here. Looks like the stem is okay, but this leaf is clearly beginning to be damaged on this side here. So that's not good. And then also on this one, I was doing my checks and I found these problematic ones. Yep, see, the stem has begun to rot on the bottom. So you might be thinking, well, gosh, what do I do with this leaf? I think these are both Hunter's Mama Joe, and I've got two of these, and both of them are having issues. So instead of just kind of throwing your hands up in the air and kind of giving up, you can see if perhaps that you can try to give these leaves a chance by cutting away the rotted part and then replanting them. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, since I have three of these I'm going to be working on, I'm just going to cover this surface with some paper just so that I'm able to dispose of any kind of pathogens or whatever. And you never know what could be causing it. It could be that the leaf is weak. It could be that there's some kind of funky things in the soil or whatever. And it could have been that the leaf just simply got moist and started rotting. So what I usually like to do is I'll just take the leaf out of the cup and I'll just put the cup aside, and got some alcohol, and I'm just going to, and if you have like a razor blade, or I like using an X-Acto knife, so just kind of spray that with alcohol. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and excise the rotted part of the leaf, and just make sure that you have a sharp blade to do this. All right, and I also want to leave enough for a stem here, so I'm just going to excise this part as well. And part of the problem is perhaps this particular leaf got moist on the bottom, and it got too moist and it just started rotting. And the problem also could have been maybe there was something funky in the soil. You never know. So we're just going to get rid of that rotting part of the leaf. You also have part of the stem here that's rotting away, so we're just going to cut that section off too. Make sure that everything is all clean from that part of the leaf. And I'm going to spray this with a little bit, we've got some tissue on here, so I'm going to spray this with a little more alcohol. And I'm doing this to make sure that I don't have any kind of organisms that are on the blade. And I'm just going to make a new stem here. And just kind of cut this away a bit more. Don't know if you can see it. Like so. And I've had some success in doing this. There's some, and I usually like having some kind of that main stem there, if you can see it. But in some cases, I've even had like the tip of a leaf, which was all I had left, and I just kind of replanted that tip of that leaf. So basically all I had was just like this part of the leaf, and I just simply replanted it, and I've actually had some success with that, so you never know. All right, so I've made a new stem. I cut away all of this rotted tissue here, and so just put this aside for now. I'm going to sterilize my blade again because I have two other leaves that I need to fix here. And I'm just going to clean that away and throw it away. Because whatever what was going on with those leaves, I don't want it back in with this newly cut leaf. All right, and just in case there was something going wrong with the soil that was in that cup, I just got a new cup. Just gonna fill it up with some soil, and I'm just going to repot that leaf. And put some nice fresh soil in there. Remember, when we're potting up leaves, you want to make sure that it's nice and airy. That could have been part of the problem. Maybe the mix wasn't airy enough. I'm not sure. You never know. Sometimes you just have leaves that just don't make it. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and put the leaf back into the soil. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wet this down a little bit before I do that. Put this leaf back in the soil. And then cover it up just like I do with my regular leaves that I haven't cut, and put it back under the light and see how it does. Now, there's no guarantee that this leaf is going to make it. There might have been too much damage. Maybe there was some kind of fault or organism in the leaf that made it fail or something. You never know, but it's worth a shot. Instead of just being upset that the leaf is gone, I like to always try to give it a chance. So, I'm gonna deal with my other two leaves. Fresh piece of paper. Kind of cover up my work surface here. And I already sterilized my knife again. Okay, so in this case, let's do the other Mama Joe leaf. And again, and it looks like, again, I'm gonna put this cup away. All right, and so in this case, it looks like the rot has started like right here. It hasn't started in the stem. Actually looked like the stem was beginning to get some roots. So in this case, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to kind of cut around, I'm going to kind of cut up the main stem here so I can get rid of this rotted part. So, and it's really quite amazing because, like I said, I've had some success doing this with just the tips of leaves, and like in one case, I had one leaf and it didn't seem to have any roots, and just babies just kind of sprouted off the tip of it, and it's kind of amazing. I mean, the leaf didn't even grow roots. I just had like the remaining thing, no stem or anything, and it just propagated. So these leaves can be amazing, and it's just a matter of spotting potential problems and then excising them and getting rid of them, and then giving the healthy part a chance to do something. All right, so, and it looks pretty radical. I know it looks really radical, and you're looking at this and like, how on earth is this going to work? And sometimes it does. All right, and I think in this case, I'm going to go ahead and, it seems stable. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut a new section here off the stem. I'm just going to cut the old stem off. Okay, at an angle. So again, I've just made an entirely new stem here. I cut off the parts that were rotting, and let's see, we're gonna go ahead and pop that up. Again, make sure that you are always sterilizing your area, because if it is some kind of bacteria or whatever that's in the soil, you don't want to transfer that from one leaf to the other in your cutting utensil. All right, got another cup. All right, and wet this down. I use distilled water on all of my leaves that I propagate. It doesn't have anything to do with whether distilled water is best or not. I just don't like the water quality that we have here. So I just tend to use distilled water. You don't have to. If the water that comes out of your tap is great, then you can use tap water. In some cases, you may have chloramides or chlorine or some kind of chemicals in your water. And if that's the case, you may need to find ways to get rid of them. There's chemicals that you use in aquariums that can take chlorine out of water. If you're using tap water, you may want to go ahead and get some of that. All right. And one last one. All right, L.E. Isadora. Okay, in this case, the stem has rotted completely. Not good. So again, I'm going to be making a new stem. I already sterilized my X-Acto knife, and we're just going to make a new stem. Just cut close to the stem there, along the sides, and then cut away the leaf, so you're just making a new leaf there. And when I'm checking all of my leaves, I go once a week and kind of give all the leaves I'm propagating a once over. And that's one of the things that you want to check for. You want to check and make sure that there's no rotting. If sometimes you may have rotting on the top, I just excise that. It's worse if the rotting's here in the stem, because this is where you tend to propagate. All right, now I'm going to cut off the rotted part here. Spray that a little bit. And what I'm doing is the alcohol I'm using, it's a mixture of 70% alcohol and water. So that's what I'm using to sterilize my tools. Made a new stem. I cut at an angle to give it some surface area for roots and babies to come out of. Okay, put that back. And one last time. Making a bit of a mess, but it wouldn't be fun if you don't have any mess at all. Yep, I made a bit of a mess, that's okay. All right, and then I'm going to take this leaf and stick it back in the cup. All right, and there we are. I'm gonna keep an eye on these. I'm gonna make sure when I'm doing my weekly checks, I'm gonna make sure that the leaves stay healthy. Every so often you kind of pull on them to see if they're growing any roots. And as long as they stay green and healthy, chances are that they'll go ahead and root. And then if they root, then you have a great chance of getting little plantlets of these leaves, even though you had some problems with it. So I'll put in an update to see how they're doing in a few weeks. And, hopefully doing this a little bit of surgery here will save the leaves. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and give a little bit of an update on some of the leaves that I had tried to save that were kind of fading while I was trying to propagate them, and I kind of excised them, made new stems, and then replanted them so that I could see whether they were going to go on or not. So, unfortunately, I think it was L.E. Isadora was one of them. Unfortunately, that one shriveled off and died. I did have some other leaves that were in propagation, and they are actually sprouting babies, so that's the way it goes. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So the other ones were the Hunter's Mama Joes. So Hunter's Mama Joe leaf number 2, it still seems to be alive. It rooted and it's still in there pretty firm, but it hasn't produced any babies yet. It was planted back in April, so it's September now, so it's still making up its mind. That's not at all unusual. In fact, I have one shelf that has leaves that are taking their sweet time making up their minds. And then some of them I just pulled off the shelf today, finally sprouted babies. This one I planted in January. As I said, it's now September, and it finally sprouted a little plantlet here. 9 months later. And that's just to say, if you planted a leaf and it's rooting and it's not producing any babies, sometimes you just have to be patient. Sometimes the leaf will just sprout plantlets when they feel like it. So, if you try this, as long as the leaf is still alive and it's planted and it has roots, then it might be just making up its mind. Don't get frustrated. Now, the second leaf, leaf number 1, actually did make up its mind, and now it has this nice big baby here that I'm going to go ahead and separate in a little bit because it has this nice big leaf and it seems to be really healthy, and it's just still green, still fresh, and produce this baby. So in the case of this leaf, it actually did work. Now you can see, and like you can see some of the other leaves I've kind of done, like this leaf here had some rotting spots, so I kind of cut those off. So you can kind of see how, if you're just a little bit patient, you can try to save these leaves that appear to be having problems. Sometimes you can be rewarded and they just go ahead and thrive after you do your little surgery, and you have some plantlets that come out of that. And then you also see, on the other hand, sometimes you have to be a little patient. That is my update on the surgery I performed on these leaves. Thanks for watching.